Hey guys, welcome back to Street 48. I'm here with another video today. Well, where's my wife?
Babe? What are you doing?
Working, mate.
So we're gonna do this video without you today, yeah?
Okay, no problem.
I'm going to give you some information which should help you out when traveling to Thailand during COVID-19. So just to give you guys a heads up, this is the file that I prepared for myself and my wife prior to traveling to Thailand. Joke, you know? But obviously you can't just travel to Thailand for tourism right now during COVID-19. Okay guys, so a quick one. I checked the Thai Embassy London website and on there it's showing now that you can come to Thailand for tourism as long as you have the appropriate health insurance and a certificate of entry. However, like I said before coming out, do check that for yourselves as I'm not 100% on that. We have some personal family reasons, which is why we're here. So obviously if you do have those reasons, you can go and check, you know, the country that you're traveling from and also Thai government website. You can go get all the details from there, what kind of reasons you're permitted under to travel to Thailand during COVID-19. Now this video might go out a little bit later, but I'm filming this video at the start of April 2021. So maybe by the time this video goes out, you guys need to check up on the rules in case they've had some changes or whatever. But for now, myself and my wife, we traveled down from the UK to Thailand and we are subject to a 10-day quarantine, which is why we're here in this hotel. It's an ASQ approved hotel and I will give you more information about that and what ASQ actually is when we get on with this video. So like I said, these are all the documents I had to prepare for myself and my wife in order to, you know, smoothly get ourselves into Thailand. Now, when you are actually planning to go into Thailand, you need to think about a few things. First of all, and the main thing being the reason that you're traveling into Thailand. Now, like I said, during COVID-19, because of all the precautions and everything, you are not just able to travel to Thailand for tourism. UK, for example, especially England, they have about 5-6 set reasonable exceptions that you can, obviously, if you fall under one of those exceptions, you can travel outside of UK. So the problem for us wasn't just, you know, traveling into Thailand, but it was also, you know, us providing enough sufficient evidence to travel out of UK at this moment of time. I'll explain to you all the documents that you need or the requirements that you need to fulfill or the evidence that you need. But before that, let me talk to you about flying out from your country into Thailand. Now, one of the main things is during this COVID pandemic, not all airlines are operating their usual flights. So normally when I come into Thailand, my go-to flight is Emirates. I just like their service and everything. But the thing is, it stops in Dubai. Now, Dubai is on the red list and, you know, coming here on Emirates, you wouldn't have been able to get into Thailand anyway. But also Emirates are not running any flights to Thailand at all. So that was out of the picture. I looked at Etihad, I looked at Qatar Airways. But again, UAE is under the red list, so you're not going to be able to travel out using one of these airlines. So you need to be very careful because not all airlines are going to make you aware that the final destination you're traveling to might not let you in if you have transited through one of those countries, and UAE being one of them. So one of the main things you need to look at is the airline that you're traveling with, especially depending on the country you're flying from and the country you're flying to. And in this video, particularly that being Thailand, so you need to be very careful. You know, if one of the countries your flight is going to transit through and that is on the red list, you know, there's no point of traveling through that because they might not let you on, you know, on your connecting flight. I know it's a little bit strange, but you know, you need to understand even the, you know, aviation industry and everything, they are getting used to this situation, you know, this pandemic, and now they're starting the flights back up again, but not everything's going to be running normal for quite some time. So you need to be mindful of that and just be prepared yourself. It's better to be safe than sorry. But before you jump onto that flight, there's a lot of documentations you need to prepare. There's a lot of evidence that you need to have at hand. So let's talk about that first. So if you're traveling to Thailand, you need to have a valid reason to travel. Plus, you either need to be a Thai national or you need to be directly related to a Thai national. Now, you can either be the husband or wife of that Thai national, you can be the parent of that Thai national, or you can be the children of that Thai national. So let me just give you a quick outline of how this whole thing works. I'll explain everything in detail. So to start with, you're going to have to book yourself an ASQ hotel, ASQ being the alternative state quarantine hotels. There's a list on the Thai embassy, you can go check it out. You have to book one of those hotels. You can't just book any other hotel out here in Thailand because those are hotels that are taking the COVID measurements into consideration. The main thing that you require to get into Thailand is a COE, the Certificate of Entry. The way you can apply for that is you have to go on the online Thai embassy of the country that you're living in. You put your details in, you provide them all the information about your travel out to Thailand, and then they will issue you with the certificate of entry. Now, that's the most time consuming part, because basically being a Thai national is going to be very straightforward for you. You're going to enter your details, you're going to give the evidence, and they will approve it straight away, if not the next day. In our case, for example, right? But if you're not a Thai national and you're someone accompanying the Thai national, what you're going to need is a lot of evidence, and it needs to be there ready for them in order for them to give you an answer to your certificate of entry. Certificate of entry works in 2 stages. First, you need to upload all the information, which will take 1 to 3 working days for them to come back and say, yes, we're happy with this information, now we require all this evidence. So that's going to take up to 3 working days. For me, it took about a day and a half to 2 days before I heard back from the Thai embassy. Now that's the first part. So once you've received an answer to your first submission of this certificate of entry, you will need to go out and get a few things done, particularly 3 things. First of all, you need to book a return flight in your name. Secondly, you need to have an ASQ hotel booking. And thirdly, you need a COVID insurance before you travel out. Now, all of this evidence you're going to have to submit as a bunch to the Thai embassy for them to approve your certificate of entry and them to grant you an actual certificate, which you then need to take with you on all the airlines that you're traveling, especially when you enter into Thailand. Okay, so number 1, the flight that you book. You need to book a return flight showing them that you will not be staying in Thailand for more than 30 days. When you're booking a flight, you need to be very careful about the country you will have a transit through. Now, if you're flying through a country that is on a red list, that's going to be a no-go, because Thailand is quite strict. They will not let you on the flight that's flying into Bangkok, Thailand, or once you do arrive here in Thailand, they will refuse you entry, regardless of whether you have the COE or the certificate of entry or whatever. I booked myself and my wife a return flight through Lufthansa, because we were flying from London Heathrow into Frankfurt, Germany, from where we were going to be flying straight into Bangkok, Thailand. Now, the reason I booked Lufthansa, I could have gone with Swiss Airways as well, is because Lufthansa has, or is, I would say, more lenient with passengers traveling in from the UK, because UK cases are quite high. It's not on the red list, but Swiss airline, especially Switzerland, is more concerned about people traveling in from Great Britain, and I looked into some information online and it didn't seem too straightforward, and it looked a bit risky traveling in from there, because they could refuse your onward travel. They have the right to do so, especially during this whole COVID pandemic. Secondly, I knew if I was stopping through Germany, I would have less problems if I was stopping in Switzerland, for example, because I didn't know the rules and stuff. Plus, I hold a German passport, so it would have made it easier for me to travel through Germany with my wife. I didn't want to risk that. I went with Lufthansa. So the return flight for myself and my wife costed around 1180, something around that, for about 3 weeks of stay. So we were traveling in through Lufthansa, stopping into Frankfurt, and then straight into Bangkok, Thailand, and all of that went very smoothly because we had all the documents. Obviously, if you're not Thai national, you will most likely be booking a flight which transits through another country. Now, if you're traveling from a country that requires you to have a visa to travel to Thailand, you will also need to consider that. I myself didn't need that, nor did my wife. So the flight booking obviously needs to show that you're departing your home country on this date, you're arriving in Thailand on this date, you'll be staying here for that long, and then you'll be returning back to your home country. They will also look at which airline you're traveling on, because that will tell them which country you will be transiting through. So if you're transiting through a country that is on the red list, or is a country that requires a longer period of quarantine, then they will need to take that into consideration. So they check all of that to make sure, like I said, when you're traveling out, you're looking at the flights in detail, where your transit is going to be, and if that country is on a red list, or if that's going to make you have more days in quarantine. So that's the first thing. You need to book yourself a return flight for less than 30 days, showcasing that you're leaving on this date and you'll be returning on this particular date. Now, number 2 is to do with the ASQ hotel booking. Now, the ASQ hotel booking is a system that Thailand has implemented, and a few other countries as well. Basically, you buy yourself a package and they accommodate your quarantine, either 10-day or 14-day quarantine within a hotel in Thailand as part of the COVID safe measures. Now, you do have to pay for this quarantine. It's not free of charge. One way to avoid that is that if you're Thai national and you're traveling on Thai Airways, Thailand's national airline, then you don't have to pay for the quarantine. You can stay at one of the designated hotels and they will pay for your 10 or 14-day quarantine depending on where you're traveling from. However, if you have someone accompanying you who's not Thai but is related to you, directly related to you, like I explained, a parent, spouse or child, you will need to accommodate yourself and you need to choose one of the hotels that you can find on the Thai embassy, and you have to book yourself in for quarantine in one of those hotels yourself, and you have to buy one of those packages. Now, the hotel that we're staying in is the Ibis style Sukhumvit in Bangkok. The package here for two of us costed us just around £1,200, so £1,200 for a 10-day, 11-night quarantine in this hotel. Now, that does sound a lot, but compared to England, you know, where they're charging you £1,750 in this particular package, and I believe most of them you have your breakfast, lunch and dinner included, because you're not allowed to step outside of your hotel room. You're inside this hotel for, you know, however many days you're going to be quarantining for. So you're here, it's like a prison, but depending on which hotel you stay in, we're quite comfortable here. You know, we have, you know, everything that we need. We have a, you know, we have a view, we have TV, we have like a nice shower, we have a nice bed, everything's right. So depending on where you stay, you know, that's how more comforting your quarantine will be. But I'll make a separate video about the 10-day quarantine in this hotel and everything. That's going to be a future video, so I'm going to keep all that information for that one. This is mainly about you traveling into Thailand. So yes, like I said, you have to book yourself an ASQ hotel if you're not a Thai national and not traveling with the Thai national airline, which is the Thai Airways. So you will need to do that. There's some packages you can go check yourself. There's different hotels. That will also include the pickup service. Basically, when you land at Bangkok, Thailand, the hotel will send out a pickup service for you. You will be taken from the airport, your luggage and everything, you know, you'll be placed in the car and you will be taken straight to the hotel. So you can't stop anywhere, you can't go anywhere else prior to arriving at the hotel and completing your 10-day quarantine. That's just safety measures, and I think that's why, you know, Thailand has managed to keep their, you know, COVID cases quite low compared to some other countries, because these measures here are quite good. The third thing, if you're not a Thai national, you will need to get a COVID insurance. It's normally when I travel out, I do get travel insurance, but this is a little bit different because it covers you up to, I believe, a minimum of $100,000 US. That's the Thailand's requirements for your entry. You need to have a health insurance, which includes and mentions that it also covers you for any COVID expenses if you happen to get COVID when you're out here. If you're not Thai national, you will need to get that as well. These are the three things that you will need to progress your COE application, the second part of it. So you will need your ASQ hotel booking confirmation, you will need your return flight confirmation, and you will also need your insurance document. You need to provide all of that. You need to scan it, upload it to the Thai embassy. Then they will take another 1 to 3 working days to get back to you in regards to whether you are actually able to fly out to Thailand. Now for me, again, the second round took me just a day, I believe, just 1 working day. I submitted it early in the morning around 6 a.m. and I got the answer back, I believe, the following day. So it just depends on how busy they are, but obviously that time they weren't that busy. So once you've heard back from the Thai embassy granting you the certificate of entry, you will need to get a PCR COVID test. Now make sure it's the correct PCR COVID test. It's a regulated one. It's one that you get a certificate for. Because otherwise it will not be accepted, you know, on any of the airlines. They will refuse you and you have to go back. Now for the PCR COVID test, you can obviously go online and check who's offering these services depending on which country you're flying from. For us, obviously, it was London, England. So the company that I went with was Doc Tap. The service was quite good. You know, we went to a pharmacy, we booked the correct PCR COVID test. Different packages will cost you different money. This one costed us £168 per person, the next day COVID test results. And you really do need that. You know, if you're paying thousands of pounds for the flights and the ASQ hotel, you don't want to risk all of that just because of a delayed COVID test. You know what I mean? So paying the extra £30-40 per person will at least guarantee you that you will get your COVID test the next day. For example, the COVID test, you also require a COVID test prior to flying out. Now for Thailand, it was fine for you to have a COVID test within the past 72 hours. However, Germany said within the past 48 hours. So I obviously looked up on that in advance, so we managed to sort out the timing and everything of our COVID test. But if you don't do that, we saw a lot of people in the airport getting stopped, you know, being turned away from boarding their flights, especially in London Heathrow and Germany as well. So be mindful of the fact that when I say you need to be tested within 48 hours or you need to be tested within 72 hours of, you know, flying or whatever, it actually means being tested within those hours. It doesn't mean being tested 3 days or 4 days ago and then receiving your results within those 72 hours of you flying or within those 48 hours of you arriving in an airport. You actually need to be tested during those hours, you know, that each country states. So all All of this stuff is very strict for traveling right now, so make sure everything is done properly. And they will check that when you arrive at Bangkok. You know, the security is very tight. You know, you can see everyone there lining up, sitting down. They check all your documents, check your temperature. They do everything properly. You arrive at your departure airport, they will check all your documents. They call you one by one. Try and get to the airport earlier than you usually would, because all of these precautions and safety measures, they're taking a lot of time. They're checking every person's document, and they check in detail. They ask you for every document that they require, so they will check you that at your departure airport. So once you've done that, you obviously fly on, and then your documents will be rechecked where you're transiting into Thailand. So for example, we stopped in Germany, we had all of these documents rechecked. I've put everything in a file. You know, it was easy for me to show them whatever they needed. So everything, like I said, is in here. It's a big bunch, you know, just normally if you want to fly out to Thailand, when I've flown out to Thailand before, you know, you don't need anything. You have your boarding passes on your phone. That's all you need. You don't need any other documents, you know. You just fly in and that's it. But now, like I said, during this whole COVID pandemic, and especially during the whole, you know, not being allowed to leave your country for, unless it's a permitted reason, you need all of this. So whilst we were on the flight from London Heathrow to Frankfurt, Germany, and also from Frankfurt, Germany to Bangkok, Thailand, you have to keep your mask on at all times. You can obviously take off your mask when you're having a drink or you're eating, but you know, you get asked to put your mask back on straight away. Prior to arriving to Bangkok, Thailand, you will also need to fill out a declaration form and a T8 entry form. Those are literally just forms of you stating that this is your identity, this is how long you're going to be here, the address where you're going to be staying at. Once you arrive in Bangkok, Thailand, the way they let you off, the way they let passengers off the airplane is they do section by section in a way that works a lot quicker. And normally when you're traveling, you know, on planes, everyone just tries to get out at the same time. Even myself, trying to get out as fast as possible, and it just causes delays and everything. But right now, because airports are not too busy, basically the way they do it is they let off section by section. Once you get out in Bangkok, Thailand, you know, it's totally different to Frankfurt, Germany, or London Heathrow. Everyone's dressed up in, you know, the protective clothing, PPE, got masks, got glasses. They're just, you know, guiding you where to go. It feels like a scene from a movie, you know. When you're actually leaving the gate, there is a designated area where they have a lot of seats, properly distanced out, you know, social distancing and everything. You sit down, and then you see the members of, you know, the immigration or whatever. They come down and check your documents one by one. That takes a little bit of time, and once that is done, they check your temperature. They ask for, you know, if you have received any COVID vaccinations and stuff. It's not really going to help. I think if you've had 2 doses of a vaccination, I'm not 100% sure. We had 1 each. We had the first dose. But if you've had both of them, I think your quarantine time goes down from 10 days to 7 days. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what we were told at the airport. Once you through all the COVID checkpoints and the immigration, you will go pick up your luggage. Now, once you've picked up your luggage, just before you head outside, there's going to be people there in PPE. They will spray all your bags with, I think it's antibacterial sprays or whatever, just, you know, as a final precaution. Then you will be greeted with your driver or, you know, the assistant, whoever's there with you, to take you to your ASQ hotel. As we were coming out, there was a lady there who approached us. The hotel had sent her there to obviously approach us and let us know where we need to head and everything. It's a hotel pickup. They have their own cars, so they drive down and that pick you up. It's all protected. Even inside, they have a you know, plastic shield to protect the driver from, you know, the people coming from outside of Thailand. And we were lucky because we arrived there before 6 p.m. on that day. The first day actually counted as a first day in quarantine. If you arrive after 6 p.m, that day is not going to count as your first day, so you will technically end up staying 11 days, which means 12 nights. So yeah, guys, this was a quick video. Not a quick one because I had to give out some detail. Just to inform you guys, if you do happen to be traveling to Thailand, these are all the steps and precautions that you need to take in order to have a smooth travel and arrive in Bangkok, Thailand, and not be turned away at any point of your journey. We will be back with another video explaining how the 10-day quarantine works here in Thailand at this hotel. Like I said, we're staying at Ibis style Sukhumvit, Bangkok. Just to give you more details about how it is, you know, the food and everything that's included within this package. As for now, this video was just to provide you guys information on traveling to Thailand. I hope it was useful. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next week with another video. Until then, logging out. Bye bye.